I got to tell you a bit of a story about what nobody actually tells you about doing a PhD. And I think that this is going to be really, really important for you to understand what it's actually like. I think it's extraordinarily important for all of us to understand how a PhD feels. So, by the way, if you don't know who I am, I'm Professor Dave Maslach. I'm an associate professor of innovation. I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. Now, a PhD is a lot like swimming. I swim a lot. I started really taking this up in the last 3-4 years, and I do a lot of competitive swimming. So I will swim 4 or 5 days a week, maybe 6 days a week, anywhere between 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on what the day actually is. And I swim my heart out when I'm in the water, constantly going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. My swimming has improved a little bit. I used to swim maybe 100 yards in a minute 30. Now I swim it in a minute 18 if I'm going as hard as I possibly can. Now, I'm 45 years old, and even at 45 years old, a minute 18 is too slow to be competitive in any area. I am 18 seconds, probably even more, beyond what I should be to be competitive. Now, I know I'm never going to be competitive. I know that swimming is not something that I will be ever able to go to the Olympics for. My goal with a PhD, and now that I've done it, gone through it all, gone through the pressures of it, still live it every day. It doesn't go away. When you become a professor, the pressures don't go away. That feeling is still there. My goal is never to go to the Olympics anymore. My goal is survival. My goal is to get back up and do this again. And as I do this, I realize that I'm never going to be good enough to be at the top ranks. Now, people get into PhDs, they get into the career, the academic career, for all sorts of different reasons, but most of the time they're very, very intelligent. And they're intelligent in a lot of different ways. Sometimes they are intelligent because they have the smarts up here, but oftentimes they're also very intelligent with figuring out relationships. And they have a tremendous amount of being able to negotiate their way through relations. And people get into top echelons anywhere of society through a lot of different ways, but that tends to be some of the ways that they get through. And so you're going to bump into a lot of people that, even though that they're intelligent, they might be manipulative, or they might think that there is a certain way to get to some place. And when you have this feeling of desperation that you get up and you do it every day and nothing happens, sometimes we let some of those things come out, and we tend to manipulate other people in different ways. And so it's not just about an intelligence game that we're playing. It's also a relational game. Science is a lot about people and interacting with people. And there are mechanisms that allow us to play worse because things are hidden than in other areas. And so you have to be used to a lot of the things that goes on in terms of feeling like something feels weird here that doesn't make me feel good. So coming back to this analogy of the swimming is, I know I'm never going to play at the top. right? There are lots of different reasons why people get to the top of swimming, and it's not just because that they're spectacularly good at swimming. Just like many reasons why people get to the top of other sports. There's lots of things that go on behind the scenes that you will never see and you'll never understand. And so you have to be used to swimming at where you actually are, given with who you actually are inside. And I think this is a really important thing. It's a nice analogy for life. It's a nice analogy for any particular career that you might be interested in thinking about, where people are desperately competing against each other. Is that you'll reach a moment, you'll reach a pace, you'll reach a plateau, whatever you want to call it, and that's the best that you can do for you. And you can continue on and try to continue to improve and get better and better through various different means that may be a little nefarious. I could take steroids. I can take all sorts of weird supplements to get a little bit faster. I could do all sorts of weird regimes to allow me to get a little bit faster. Or I can accept myself for who I am, which tends to be the harder thing, is to accept myself for the fact that I'm only going to swim at maximum 100, a minute and 18. And I'm likely going to get slower as I age. I'm likely not going to ever be where I was. And I have to come to terms with exactly that thing. And this is what's going to happen to you. You can either choose to play the game and do all of the things that it takes to play the game, or you can choose to be you, and you can choose to be yourself. Both of those things are probably equally right. If you choose to play the game and you be ultra competitive and you try to get ahead, you're going to get ahead. It will happen. And a lot of people do that very well in various different ways, either through their intelligence or through their relational abilities, all these kind of things. Or you can choose to be yourself and choose to compete with whatever your limitations actually are. And so a lot of what you are going to go through with a PhD is learning what those limitations are. It's not an intelligence game in the way that you think about it as. It's not about smart people being extraordinarily smart. It's about playing a game where smart people are trying to outwit other people. And so you choose on where you want to stand and what you want to represent and how that might be. I know I'm never going to be the top, whatever that might be. But I know I'm going to keep trying. Every day I show up, I don't see myself quitting swimming. I likely don't see myself quitting the whole research game, but man, it feels so seductive to think about that many times. It's it's such a romantic thing to think about quitting something that is so hard. And yet, what's really interesting is that there's nothing hard about this. If you were to tell people what we do, people think it's not hard. They don't understand. They think it's the easiest thing in the world. But I just beg of people that think that way to sit down and try to write something. Do it for a month. See what happens. See how productive you are. And then be told that you're supposed to do this every single day for the rest of your life. And quickly, people realize, but they give you the look. It's hilarious because they realize inside they can't do it. They don't have that fortitude. But then they give you the look and then they tell you that they actually can do it and it's so easy to actually do. So you have to figure out how to deal with this inside, where a lot of people will say that they can swim in 100 yards in less than a minute, but you know they can't. It is an extraordinarily difficult thing to do. And not only that, the people don't even have the fortitude to get up and go swimming every day or exercise every day or any number of different things. So I want you to realize if you're doing this, if you're doing a PhD, to realize that if you're doing it, it is an extraordinarily difficult task, but also you're an extraordinarily good person for actually doing it. You have the fortitude to continue to do it. Whereas most people, 99.999% of the people, would never want to do it, much less actually try to do it. And then on top of it, I want you to really think about, who do I represent and what am I about? And where am I going to go? What does that mean to do good things in this world? And for me, doing good things, it's not about getting to that 1 minute, even though it is so seductive and I wish I can get there and I try my heart out. And man, I wish you can see me try. Because I'm so huffy puffy. But I know it's not going to happen. And so I have to come to terms with me being me and realizing that even though it's not going to happen, I'm going to try to be as competitive as I can and swim my heart out. But at the same time, realize I'm not going to lose myself to some arbitrary, bizarre goal that makes no difference in anybody else's life. Why does it matter that I swim 100 yards in less than a minute? It's pointless. Why does it matter that you write another research paper or do this particular thing? It's pointless as well. And so you need to figure out, how am I going to come to terms with who I am inside and repeatedly do that? And it ain't easy. It's a hard process where you constantly reassess yourself every day and you never feel like you're good enough. You never feel that you're at the top and you feel ugly the whole time. That's what doing a PhD is like. And you have to come to terms with being a good person when you're doing that. Or you can take steroids and all of those weird supplements and all that kind of stuff too. So learn how to deal with this. Learn how to deal with you being you on a regular basis. It's hard, but you can do it.